Hi, welcome to the NLP UK Training Podcast. I'm Fraser.
And I'm CK.
And today we're actually going to share with you the 5 key things that we would look for if we were to work with a coach for ourselves.
Or the 5 things that we believe make us successful as coaches and therefore our delegates, because we teach them this.
So, Steve, what's your number 1?
Number 1 is an absolute knowing that the coach has an absolute knowing that the client, the coachee, can have the insights to work things out for themselves.
Yeah, so I think that's so key, isn't it? Because, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions around what is coaching and what's mentoring.
Yeah.
If a coach has doubts that the client can figure it out for themselves and has their own answers, then the temptation is always to give advice, which isn't coaching.
Or they'll ask leading questions that lead them to the results they think the client should come up with themselves. And you know that. You've told me an example of where you were coaching somebody and you thought you knew what they might be able to do. This is when you first started. And they came up with something completely different. They had an insight.
Yeah.
So we believe that if the coach knows that everybody has the capacity to have insights, then you will be so much more confident as a coach, and I would be if I was being coached, if they believe that everyone has the capacity to have insights into what the solution is and what action to take, then that is such a big starting point, because it means that the coach can confidently charge a decent fee for what they're doing.
And actually, from a client's perspective, you know, as a coach, I have my own coach, and I'm more than happy to pay for that coach because they have that trust in me to find my own answers and will give me that space to do it within a coaching session.
Yeah. So that's number 1.
That's number 1. What's number 2?
I think number 2 is listening underneath what the client's saying. So not taking the first words that they're saying, but really hearing the deeper structure that's coming from their core script or model of the world by listening out for words and phrases and metaphors to explore what's underneath. So if the presenting problem is something like, I want to have more success in my trampoline making business, and they're using words like, I should be doing this, and I've got to be doing this, and I've got to get into the European market, I would be exploring, a good coach would be exploring the deeper structure of what's underneath those words.
Yeah.
Because the deeper structure comes first, then the words. And not only that, but I think we'll talk about it later about what's underneath the presenting problem. But listening to those words that people are using, it's like in NLP, we talk about the NLP linguistic assumptions. So if you don't hear the word in the sentence, then you've got to check that you're not distorting what the client's saying. So it's listening to those, but also listening out for implications that the client may be making but not voicing.
Because quite often the language that we use is so unconscious that we don't recognize within ourselves the language that we're using is actually telling us that there's a different problem underneath that initial problem. There may well be something deeper that is causing that presenting problem.
Which we're going to cover as number 4 as well.
Yeah.
I think also it's not just listening to the words, It's having the sensory acuity, if you like, to pick up on physiological changes when they are talking about something, because the words that are coming out, there may be a mismatch between the words that are coming out and their physiology.
Yeah.
So if we can pick up things about their physiology, like their breathing, where they're breathing from, any changes of darkening of the skin, then that might give us clues that there's something going on rather than just a presenting problem. And it's also interesting that the presenting things that they come up with starts off with, they might not know or be consciously aware of what's underneath that. So by exploring and listening to their language and picking up on those cues, we'll get to something deeper that they may not have known existed. So, for example, somebody might say that they're looking for autonomy, and we might be kind of almost doing a prime concerns thing in our head about, what does autonomy mean for you, and what does not having an autonomy mean for you? And it might be something like, deeper down, autonomy is the presenting word that they want, but actually there's a fear of being alone underneath, which is what a very good coach would be able to pick up. So number 3, I think this is having credibility and having results themselves. So, for example, I did a workshop a few years ago with a bunch of coaches, and nearly every one of them said they had a limiting belief themselves. And I don't know whether, I know coaching isn't about imparting your own stuff on people, but I would like to have thought that a good coach would have worked on themselves. But more fundamental than that, we have people who do the ILM 7 in executive coaching with us. And we also have the advanced accredited diploma in coaching from the Association of Coaching. And if I hear someone saying, I've not had time to do my first assignment yet, and they're using lots of reasons, how can they hold an executive or someone in a senior position or anybody to account if they can't hold themselves to account? Are they taking responsibility for their own lives and performance? Are they really living it?
Are you walking the walk?
Exactly.
It's easy to talk the talk, but walking the walk is something completely different. And a good coach is someone that embodies the principles of coaching and self-development in order to help their clients. Is
there anything else on credibility?
Yeah, I think credibility,
things like turning up and being on time and
turning up, being on time. There are small
prepared.
things, but actually, ask if you're looking for a coach, what kind of results are their clients getting? What are other people saying about their results? Because anyone can say, I get great results with my clients. A good coach will be able to actually back that up with some evidence. Someone comes to me and says, well, what kind of results are you getting with your clients? I can tell them, but I might also say, let me get in touch with such and such client that I've worked with that I think, would be a good person for you to talk to get an idea of what it's like to work with me. So that's very credible, because that's about being authentic and honest and upfront with your clients and being able to demonstrate your abilities too.
I think along with that, one we've talked about on a previous podcast is that the coach will be upfront and honest about the kind of work that needs to be done once they've explored the situation with you. And they won't try and cram something into fit with a price point. They'll be flexible enough to know what needs to be done, how much effort they want to put in, and how much effort the coaching client is prepared to put in before they work with somebody.
And let's face it, as a coach, none of us have a magic wand. So if someone is offering you a magic wand that is going to solve all your problems without you having to lift a finger, that's not true. Coaching, the coachee has to dig deep and do some work. It's not the coach's job to do that work for them.
And that brings us to number 4, which is, can the coach see underneath the presenting problem to what's driving it? Like, can they identify there's probably a limiting belief there and know how to work with the coachee in the best way to resolve that? Or it might be, can the coach look at what the person's saying and work out how the client's model of the world is working? And this will only work by them calibrating on the client's situation, really, really listening to what they're saying and knowing how the brain works and how the mind works of what's underneath that, so that the coachee has insights that let that problem fall away.
And I think that means that the coach has to be brave enough to challenge their client.
Yeah.
Certainly for me, I like a lot of challenge when I'm being coached.
Yeah.
Because I, even as a coach myself, as an NLP trainer, I don't always see what other people see.
Yeah.
Because I'm in me.
Yeah.
I'm doing me. Whereas, we've had some coaching sessions, Steve, where you've pointed out something to me that was so blatantly obvious that was in my blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been, you've challenged my thinking.
Yeah.
So I would definitely want a coach that will challenge effectively and appropriately.
Yeah. I recall us doing a 3Ps coaching demo in January, I think it was, or February. And the guy came along and said, I've been having overwhelm about my business, and I'm also feeling overwhelmed at home. And physiology was, you could see that their physiology was showing something was going on inside in the way they were thinking about things. And what most of your coaches will do is explore what's going on at work that's causing the overwhelm and what's going on at home. And they'll explore how they can manage their time better, how they can focus on the big rocks, the big stuff. And it'll all be very, very surface level. But by enabling the coachee to connect with their, let's call it, true self, they had insights into how they could let their mind quieten anyway. And that lasted. And last time I spoke to them a few months ago, they were still 6 months later not experiencing any of that overwhelm, because as a coach, I had the ability to get underneath those presenting problems and let them, I knew they had the capacity to have that insight themselves and look to their inner wisdom. And all we did was create the conditions where they could do that themselves.
So Steve, what's the number 5?
Well, number 5, we've got, can they get rid of limiting beliefs with the coachee? Because most, when someone says, well, I want to get the next job at, what's holding you back?
It's a limiting belief.
It's a limiting belief. When someone says, I want to set my own business up, but I don't think people will buy from me,
it's a limiting belief.
So I guess if you have a coach that can help the coachee get rid of limiting beliefs, I would say that was That was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Because once they've got rid of that limiting belief, and it can be done in a session in 10, 15, 20 minutes without going into doing timeline therapy. There are some quicker interventions. You can then carry on with the coaching session and have more stretching goals. I was coaching a manager of a logistics company a few years ago, and he wanted to become a general manager. And we worked out that competency-wise, he could get the competencies he needed to do it. But there was something else that was holding him back. And I said, do you get a feeling? And he said, yeah, I've got a feeling of anxiety. Okay, so I did this quick NLP limiting belief change. And after that, he was like a different person. And it took me 5-10 minutes max. I think the hardest bit was getting to the lowest level limiting belief. So if you've got a coach who can get rid of limiting beliefs, 3Ps coaching does it, NLP coaching does it. I'm not sure whether Havening does it. Does Havening help?
Yeah.
But most coaches won't do things like that. They'll do normal coaching. So those are our top tips to find a successful coach, or even to become a successful coach.
So we've loved speaking to you today. This is it for today. But if you want some more information, as always, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, have a look at our social media, and you can always have a look at the website at NLP UK Training.com. We'll see you next time.